My mother-in-law forced me to cut my family from our destination wedding guest list so her colleagues could attend, but what happened next left all speechless. To provide some background, my mother-in-law is the type of person who enjoys flaunting even the smallest achievements in the most extravagant manner, despite lacking any sophistication in her own life. She goes out of her way to pretend that she is the talk of our society. One glaring example of her absurd behavior is the monthly club party she hosts. To clarify, there is no actual club, she merely invites her friends and co-workers for an evening gathering. Because they share the same profession, she refers to them as her fellow geeks. This peculiar ritual has been ongoing for quite some time. During these gatherings, all they do is brag about their accomplishments and achievements from the past month. You can imagine how eager my mother-in-law was to boastfully announce that my grandfather had arranged a spectacular destination wedding for me, complete with a luxurious 6-day stay package at an exquisite location. This was his extraordinarily generous gift to me, fulfilling a vision I had shared with him during countless, heartfelt conversations about my dream wedding plans. Given my constrained budget and the limited size of the venue, I had painstakingly crafted a guest list with great care and attention to detail. My husband and I had thoroughly discussed the situation beforehand and mutually agreed to prioritize our most cherished guests. Coming from a large extended family, narrowing down the guest list was an incredibly challenging task, but I successfully invited 22 people, while my husband selected 18 of our closest friends and family members with whom we regularly connected and shared meaningful relationships. We were all set to send out the invitations when my mother-in-law unexpectedly showed up at our house late one evening. Uninvited and unwelcome, it was already 9:00 p.m., and her presence irritated me from the start. She demanded that we make changes to the guest list. I couldn't fathom why she believed she had a say in the people I wanted to invite to my own wedding. To my dismay, my husband supported her stance, which raised immediate concerns for me. I inquired about the changes she wanted, and she mentioned that she had already promised a few of her work friends an invitation. These friends, she claimed, were part of her geeks group. I politely informed her that there was no room left on the guest list, as every invitee was someone we had a close relationship with and interacted with regularly. I sought support from my husband, but he avoided my gaze and sided with his mother. Despite explaining the situation to her, she insisted that I make adjustments. Frustrated, I showed her the guest list, emphasizing that every individual on it was someone intimately connected to our lives, and there was simply no way to exclude them. She then suggested removing my cousin's sister, whom I had lived with for 5 years after college. Her reasoning was that my cousin had moved to Birmingham recently, and it would be inconvenient for her to travel to the States. My patience wore thin, and I asked my husband to reason with her, but he continued to support her perspective, emphasizing the importance of inviting her chosen guests, especially after she had shared details about the destination wedding with them. I tightened my lips in frustration, feeling utterly lost on how to reason with my own fiancé, who was clearly being irrational. My anger boiled over, prompting me to storm out of the room. The following day, I woke up with resolve. I would give them a taste of their own medicine. If they could be so thoughtless about my wedding, all for the sake of saving face in front of their colleagues, then I could be equally inconsiderate. I dialed my grandpa and recounted the events from the previous night. When I finished explaining, I made it clear that I wouldn't waste my energy trying to make them see reason. Instead, I decided to strip away the main attraction from their little charade. I informed my grandpa, whom I loved dearly, that I was removing him and Grandma from the guest list along with my dad's brother and his family. I also asked him to rescind the gift he was giving me since he was no longer invited. Thankfully, my grandfather, with his unwavering kindness, understood my intentions and supported my decision without harboring any resentment, demonstrating his unconditional love. When I sent the revised guest list to my mother-in-law and fiancé, they were utterly taken aback by the changes I had made. I calmly explained that those were the only individuals I could remove from the list, but this decision came at a steep cost. We had lost our carefully chosen wedding venue. I ensured my fiancé grasped the urgency of securing a new venue within the next 2 months, or we would face the daunting prospect of postponing our long-planned wedding. Additionally, there was the considerable hassle of reprinting all the invitation cards and rearranging accommodations for our out-of-town guests, adding further stress to the situation. I wanted both my mother-in-law and fiancé to fully comprehend that none of this chaotic predicament would have arisen if it weren't for the extraordinary generosity of a family member, my grandfather, who had graciously funded half of our dream wedding, making it possible in the first place. However, I didn't anticipate that they would suddenly begin apologizing for their overbearing actions. My mother-in-law visited again, expressing what seemed like genuine remorse for pressuring me to alter the carefully curated guest list for my wedding. She earnestly implored me to call my beloved grandpa and re-invite him, pleading that he not cancel the hotel reservation or make any drastic changes to his generous arrangements. I couldn't help but question why she was offering this apology now, especially since she had already achieved her goal of securing invitations for her colleagues. She had made a bold commitment to her work friends, and now they were receiving their coveted invitations. This decision clearly weighed heavily on her conscience, and she vocalized her mounting frustration, explaining that inviting them would lose its allure unless the wedding remained at a glamorous destination. She repeatedly emphasized that a non-destination wedding would feel utterly ordinary and fail to impress others, revealing her obsession with appearances and social status. Upon hearing her express these thoughts, my husband finally admitted that he regretted supporting her decision. However, I wasn't ready to let his actions off the hook so easily. I reminded him that he shouldn't need extreme measures to support me in obvious situations. Although he apologized once again, I made it clear that my decision was final. It was a done deal, and even if I were to re-invite my grandpa, we wouldn't get back his incredibly generous gift. Was I being an angel for standing my ground? I recognized that ultimately the wedding was mine, and I should focus on myself. Yet I couldn't help but feel a bit petty about not reversing my decision. Did this make me a bad person? However, my mother-in-law wasn't finished causing problems for us. As I mentioned in my previous post, I had no intention of asking my grandpa to reinstate his gift. This decision visibly upset my mother-in-law to the point where she began a habit of calling my fiancé every other day. She portrayed me as an ungrateful troublemaker seeking revenge. While yes, I had taken certain actions that made me feel good, her labeling me ungrateful when she was responsible for this situation felt like too much. But it didn't end there. My mother-in-law went a step further, audaciously advising my fiancé to reconsider his life decisions, insinuating that my actions were merely the beginning of a challenging future and that his life would be filled with turmoil if he married me. During one of these tense conversations, my fiancé was speaking on speakerphone, and I overheard her hurtful words, which cut deeply. I was grateful for this unintentional transparency, as I knew my fiancé often concealed matters that could spark discord in our relationship to maintain peace. He did tell his mother that she had crossed a line, but his response lacked the assertiveness I hoped for. It's his relationship with his mother, and I understand I can't demand he sever ties with her simply because she disapproves of me or my choices. However, I'm acutely aware that if her relentless interference persists unchecked, I might reach a breaking point, as I cannot fathom enduring this constant meddling for the rest of my life, threatening the harmony of our future together. Today, I had a heart-to-heart with my grandpa, sharing the news about the new wedding venue we had secured. While it didn't align with the vision I cherished my whole life, it was still a beautiful place, and I found happiness in it. I reassured him that he was invited again, and his laughter warmed my heart. My gratitude and love for him overwhelmed me. He had consistently supported me in everything I did, and he continued to do so now. Confronting my husband about my mother-in-law's escalating behavior became necessary. Our conversation delved into the awkwardness certain situations had created and the pain they had caused. In the end, my husband promised to address the issue with his mother and clarify her role in our lives. I hoped for a smooth journey forward, devoid of any more drama. Finally, the wedding day arrived, and I am now officially married. Despite the unexpected turns, the wedding was a thing of beauty, and my happiness knew no bounds. I couldn't help but smile when I noticed my mother-in-law sulking in a corner with her work friends whom she had invited. In a surprising turn of events, my grandpa gifted us a house as a wedding present, a joint gesture from him and my uncles. In the grand scheme of things, I am just thrilled to embark on this new chapter of my life with my husband. I wanted to share this heartfelt update with all of you who have been a part of this emotional journey in your own unique and meaningful way, offering support through your presence or kind words. It absolutely infuriates me when people believe they have the audacity to dictate how someone should plan their wedding, or whom they should invite to such a deeply personal event. It's high time someone firmly reminded my mother-in-law that her time to influence these significant decisions is well and truly over, as this is my life to shape. You should confidently tell her to back off and leave you in peace to enjoy this new chapter without interference. Are you absolutely certain about marrying that guy? Anyone with even an ounce of insight would have seen through the manipulative game your mother-in-law was playing. Yet he supported her misguided actions. You're far from clueless. But perhaps you should carefully scrutinize your life choices to ensure they align with your core values and long-term happiness, reflecting deeply on what truly matters to you moving forward. On a personal note, I live in Queensland, Australia, while my family resides in New South Wales. Recently, my parents and my 27-year-old sister decided to invite themselves to my house for a week-long holiday after their cruise got cancelled. Frankly, I wasn't thrilled about them staying for such an extended period, especially considering I'm pregnant and already juggling the responsibilities of caring for a 2-year-old toddler. To complicate matters, our house isn't spacious enough to accommodate multiple guests comfortably. I have only one spare queen-sized bed, which my parents were occupying. My sister, however, opted to sleep on my couch in the living room. She could have shared my bed with me since my husband is away for work, but her loud snoring and my constant nudges to roll over didn't make it a viable option for restful sleep. After 2 days of their stay, during dinner on the second night, my dad dropped a bombshell. He casually mentioned that they had invited my sister's boyfriend of just 5 weeks to fly up and stay with us for the entire weekend. He had already booked a ticket and would be arriving on Friday morning at 9:00 a.m. I had never met my sister's boyfriend. After all, he had only been part of the family for 5 weeks. What infuriated me was that no one bothered to consult me beforehand. Moreover, I didn't have the space for him to stay comfortably. He would have had to sleep on my couch, and my sister would either need to share the couch or my bed with him. The idea of a stranger sleeping in my house while my 2-year-old son was in his own room was unsettling. In sheer frustration, I called my husband, and together we decided to firmly refuse the arrangement. We believed their behavior in inviting a stranger into our home was completely unacceptable. When I called my sister to communicate our decision while I was at work, my mother exploded in anger. She berated me, questioning my judgment and accusing me of doubting their ability to judge someone's character. According to her, they wouldn't invite someone into our house who couldn't be trusted, even though they had met him fewer than 10 times. Eventually, they hung up on me, hastily packed their belongings, and left my house. Later, they sent me a text message claiming that my husband had manipulated my thoughts against them and that they were leaving not because they were wrong, but because I had been an inhospitable host. According to them, I had become a terrible person since being with my husband for the past 10 years. 3 days passed, and they attempted to call me, acting as if nothing had transpired. Their inability to comprehend my reaction left me utterly baffled. I am left wondering if anyone can shed light on their perspective and help me make sense of this situation. Am I overreacting? I don't think so. I believe I was being a responsible parent, not an unreasonable person. I didn't invite them, and I certainly don't have a serial obligation to be a gracious host to a family that essentially invaded my home. To top it off, they invited a 4th person, a complete stranger, to stay without my knowledge or consent. Their entitlement is baffling. It's almost like they can't stand the fact that I've grown up and am making decisions without seeking their approval. This is the moment to establish boundaries. In my response, I made it clear that I'm not a terrible host because I didn't invite them in the first place. They invited themselves. I generously accommodated them despite the disruption to our usual routines. However, inviting another person into my home without my consent was completely unacceptable. Their tantrum when I refused to cave in and their subsequent decision to leave for alternative accommodation, all the while attacking my character, means there will be a new set of rules before I consider hosting them again. I won't be going to hang out with them after the immature behavior they displayed in my house. I've had enough of their inappropriate actions for now, and I've decided to limit my contact with them until I feel I can face them again. They crossed a line by inviting someone I've never met into my home without my approval. They didn't ask, they simply informed me that it was happening. The fact that they mentioned my seemingly good mood indicates they were aware it wasn't a good idea. They assumed I would be a pushover and allow it. I'm resolutely standing up for myself and the safety of my children, confident that I'm not in the wrong here. I'm a 33-year-old woman, currently 5 months pregnant with my first child, navigating the challenges of this transformative period. My 35-year-old husband is away on a business trip, set to return next month, leaving me to manage alone. Recently, I've been required to continue working at the office, adding to my responsibilities. When I first met my husband, he was strikingly skinny, his eating habits shaped by his mother's restrictive cooking. She avoided spices, sauces, herbs, and even basic seasonings like salt, sugar, and pepper, believing this bland approach was healthier for him. My husband had grown accustomed to this tasteless diet, unaware of culinary possibilities. However, when he tasted my vibrant cooking, he discovered a delightful world of flavor, far beyond the limited, uninspired recipes his mother prepared, opening his eyes to a richer dining experience that brought joy to our shared meals. One Wednesday, I indulged my intense curry craving and prepared a large, flavorful batch, savoring the aromas that filled my kitchen. While I typically relied on pre-prepared meals stored in the freezer for convenience, this time I gave in to the temptation to cook something fresh and satisfying. I left the extra portions in the fridge for later enjoyment. On that same day, my in-laws unexpectedly visited, using a spare key they held for emergencies. When I returned home, eagerly anticipating my curry, I was shocked to find it replaced by a bland dish made by my mother-in-law, who had discarded my meal, claiming it tasted spoiled. Unable to stomach her cooking in my pregnant state, I discreetly gave the unwanted food to a homeless person in an act of kindness. However, someone witnessed this gesture and informed my in-laws, leading to a sudden barrage of accusatory messages, even from my mother-in-law herself. My husband stood by me, offering his support, but now I'm left questioning whether I overreacted to the situation or if my frustration was justified given their intrusive actions. Honestly, it seems like your in-laws are trying to control your life. Their invasion of your home, even when you're not there, is a huge red flag. While the focus seems to be on your mother-in-law throwing away your food, the real issue here is the lack of boundaries. Setting firm limits with your in-laws is essential before your child is born. Consider changing the locks and installing security cameras to maintain your privacy and peace of mind. Remember, your home is your space, and you deserve to feel safe and respected within it.